All right, Chris, I'm going to let you start by making fun of me. Not what? Wait, that was too quick. Hold on. Did you see
I'm prepared. I'm prepared. For
He's
that.
ready.
I'm ready.
You can tell people what I do when I come to Sardis Lake. You can tell them where I stay and all that fun stuff.
Well, Michael's extremely busy. And so
This is the nice way to put it.
This is the nice way of putting it. He has too much going on, and so we worked out an alternative where he will stay in a hotel room during camp week while he is there. He leaves early to go to Foundations, which was really one of the bigger reasons this whole situation arrived, I guess. But he gets to sleep in a nice, comfortable bed and quiet, alone, while some of us are in a cabin with 5, 6, or 7 other grown men,
sweating,
stinking,
trying to go to sleep,
snoring.
Meanwhile, it's 65 degrees in my room.
In a room with a week's worth of dirty clothes, which is really, really nice. And not once has he offered for me to stay with him. And I'm really kind of
Amber
upset.
every year that you're welcome to stay with me.
She's not communicated that.
Well, that's
so
probably
maybe
because she doesn't want you to have fun.
Maybe you should have her on the show and let's straighten that out.
Well, guess what? She's here right now. Well, I got to tell you what happened to me this year, because I was glad you agreed to do this, because I told you this story. I don't think he's heard this yet, though. Maybe he has, but still, no one on the podcast has heard it. And then I want to hear some of your stories as we do this together. But I've got 2 prepared for you at least that I've got in the barrel. I'm ready.
All right.
So I'm driving in. The way camp works, too, is it's always Father's Day week.
Yes.
And so that's also hard for us at the school because that's graduation.
Yep.
So I'm always having to come in late, and that was part of it, too, was like if I don't get there by 3 p.m., I'm going to miss registration for the camp, and it just seems like I'm missing out anyway. So the usual standard practice is I'll be there Monday morning by the time I teach Bible class, and then you will see me the rest of the week until Thursday morning is when I'm having to head back. Yep. Well, this particular night, I had not packed, and we had all this stuff happen. So I left Memphis to get to Sardis, really Batesville, around 11:45. It's about an hour drive. So I'm pulling in at almost 1 in the morning, and I go to the back, and there's this college student working the front desk, and she checks me in and gets everything I need, and I go to the back to start getting out all the clothes and everything that I've got, and I noticed that my Magellan fishing shirts that I wear, my patented look now, they are drenched in Dr. Pepper. And I was thinking, how did this happen? And I don't carry cash on me. You know, I'm very much anti-establishment in that way. And so I go to the lady at the front desk and I said, "Ma'am, I'm here this week teaching at a camp, and I need to have these shirts, you know, washed and dried so that I can go and have that for the morning." And I said, I have no cash. Is there any way that I could buy stuff from the store and you just charge me and I not take the items and give me the cash? Is there a way we could work that out, charge it to my room? Is there any way? And she said, "No, but I tell you what, I'll give you the money and you can go get me cash later." And I said, that'd be great. Thank you. So it's 1 a.m. by the time I'd figured this out. And the 2 cycles to dry and wash are 40 minutes apiece. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be great. So I get the first ones washed, and I go over to put them in the washer, and there's no detergent. And I walked back and I said, "Ma'am, do you have any detergent?" 20 minutes goes by. And she comes out and says, "I have palm olive." And I said, "That'll do." And so she handed me this little thing of palm olive, and I go in there and I pour barely any. I was so scared of the suds and everything. So I poured like not even a tenth of what's in there into the the little tub of the washer machine. I wash them. I go to pull them out, and there's another guy there that's washing the clothes as well, and the other 2 washers and dryers. He's outside smoking to beat the band. I mean, he's trying to finish a pack, I guess. So I go after the washer's over. It's like 2:40 or 2 a.m. at this point when this happens. I open the washer. I go in to grab my shirts, and they reek of cigarette smoke. And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I don't smoke. And I said,
I was wondering.
I know, right? I said, ma'am, these shirts reek of cigarette smoke. I'm a preacher, and I'm supposed to be preaching in 7 hours to a bunch of teenagers. I can't show up looking and smelling like I've been smoking. That's not going to go well for me. And she said, here's some more money, and let's go figure out what happened. So she's she is almost fully inside this washing machine, and she's pulling out these cigarette buds that apparently the guy that's washing clothes had left some cigarettes in his pockets or whatever, and they all washed up, and they permeated through my clothes, and that meant I had to put more palm olive in. So this time I was like, I'm just sure that this is I'm going to come in here and there's bubbles all over the floor.
Right.
And I pour more in this time, probably 3/10 of what was left in there. And 2:40, they finish, and I pull them out, and one of the Magellan shirts has been mangled up and almost torn to shreds by that washer. I was so mad. I put them in the dryer, and I told the lady, I said, ma'am, can you check and see if there's anything we can clean this dryer with before I throw these clothes in there? Because this guy's been washing and drying his clothes. I think it's his stuff that I'm smelling. And she said, well, that one on the end doesn't smell like there's anything in there. So finally, at 3:30, I'm in the room, and now I can finally unpack to get ready for bed. And so I'm unpacking, I'm getting everything done, and at 4:30, I go to bed. My alarm's set to go off at 7 so that I could be there in time for breakfast. And in that moment, I thought, if I weren't staying in a hotel, I would have been completely down up creek. No way to really wash clothes the same night. Wouldn't have figured it out in time. I said, but at the same time, I just kind of wish I wasn't in a hotel right now because this has been a hassle. So it's not all it's cracked up to be is what I'm saying. The continental breakfast that morning didn't taste quite as good with the Belgian waffles with cinnamon sprinkled on top. And I just suffered a lot that night, and I want you to know about it.
Well, listen, we're like, I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm going to say something before you start. That's not camp.
That's not camp.
I don't care how bad it was.
Glamp.
That is not
That's
even
glamping,
that is
baby.
not even no.
That's
It's not
glamping.
camp. I agree.
That's glamping, y'all.
I mean, we are so thankful that you could suffer a little bit to be there with us.
When I got back later that afternoon, it was set to 72 degrees in the hotel room, and I had a conniption fit. I lost my mind.
Now, that one doesn't hurt us as much as it used to.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always had air in the director's.
Yeah.
People can't see this, but air quotes. We've
Yeah.
always had air conditioning in the director's cabin. And so that one's just not quite as bad. But, yeah, so I really don't know what to say to that. Outside of that, I'll say this. I'll be serious for a moment. Michael continues to come, and he spends most of the day there through the week. And I tell people every time we talk about Michael Clark that he has too much going on and he doesn't sleep enough. And so we do appreciate the fact that you're there. We always give him an opportunity to speak to the young men, we'll call them, but the older teenagers that are there at the camp and make a presentation for Memphis and all. And we're glad that he's there doing that. But really, you're not going to get a lot of sympathy from me.
It's fair. I mean, I
with,
don't
with
appreciate
where you're staying, and
Look, the
we're just not going to
Ritz-Carlton's
do
not
that.
all that it's cracked up to be.
We're just
no.
we're just not going to do that.
No, it's the Home 2 Suites there in Batesville, but it is like my
Yeah,
second home.
I'm familiar.
It's good.
Yeah.
Have you ever stayed there?
I have.
It's nice.
It is.
It's not even a normal hotel room. It's
No,
actually
it's-
nice.
Yes.
Oh, and that
It's
okay,
more
like
that
a
brings me
home.
to this other thing. When I went to book my room, the only room they had was the 2-bedroom suite.
Full 2 bedrooms.
So I walk in, and there's
you've moved from a shovel to a excavator.
oh, I'm just digging.
You're
I'm
just
trying to
digging
dig
in,
to China
buddy.
right now. So there's this one room where you got your full-size working fridge, your little hot plate area where you could cook, microwave, and then this massive open space with a couch, a desk, and a TV. You go into the bedroom through this massive walk-in bathroom, and I got the rate for just the same as one regular room a night, and that's why I thought that's what I had. And then you have this bedroom where you can shut all of the, curtains and make it easy. But I couldn't do that night at 4:30 in the morning, and they had all those bright street lights shining right inside my room. That's probably why that room was available. And, yeah.
Are you done? Because I stopped listening like 5 minutes ago.
What's new?
I was studying something else.
What's
about.
right.
So, Chris, there's one other story I want to tell, and then I'll throw it to you. This happened this week at PTP. Bradley Smith, who is sitting across from us right now, don't wave at us. We're recording a podcast for the Lord right now. You need to back down, sir. So Bradley was at dinner with us the other night, and I don't know, Adam spilled something on his sleeve, my son, Adam. And so Bradley said, hey, he was riding with me, can we go to Walmart and get a Tide pen? I said, sure. So we're in there, and it is packed. I don't know what, but like everybody was in Walmart that night. And there's this guy who's not got a shopping cart. He has like one of those little pushing, almost looks like a red wagon wheel, just more babyish, and he's got a 3 or 4-year-old sitting up against him on his side, and then maybe someone a year old, a year and a half, sitting at the very base with his head just kind of sticking out enough. And he has this toddler who's sitting closest to him holding his big old package of Coronas that he is about to purchase. And I remember thinking that alone was somewhat funny to see, that I'm just, because we are not about that life, and I've never once been like, hey, Adam, hold this for me. And so it was kind of comical to see a small child holding that. Well, somehow this man tripped. And when he tripped, he kind of jerked this wagon that he had, which startled the toddler, who instinctively released the Coronas, which then slammed into the head of the 1.5-year-old. This is what I dealt with that night. Bradley's over here losing his mind. And the father just froze. And this 1.5-year-old is not strong enough to lift this car basically off its head. And you would think the father would spring into action and go, oh, he just kind of saunters over, slowly picks it up, and looks at the box like, are you okay, to the box of Coronas. Meanwhile, his son is like crying, wailing, and his dad doesn't even stop to bend down and go, hey, are you okay? It just kind of wheels him off. And I remember thinking, I've heard all my life of how destructive, that can be, but never in my life have I seen something that illustrates its destructive nature even before it's been ingested.
Yes.
Because if that man had his son hold a 12-pack of Dr. Peppers, this wouldn't be such a problem. And that right there is just one of the, Bradley's going to die right now listening to this story again. He had to jump into the other aisle. He was laughing so hard. I've never seen that. I hope I never see it again.
Poor kid.
And I wonder what in the world that father will say to his wife when she says, "Hey, did you notice little Timmy's got this massive scar on his forehead now? Where'd that come from?" Oh, I don't want to tell you. Everything's fine. So, Chris, what's up, man? How's it going?
Well,
I set you up perfectly.
you did lead into my first. No, not at all. So I have one. This one is kind of short, but this goes back to my first. Well, not my first work, but the first location. I worked with two different churches in the same town. So we were in Paris, Tennessee, and I will refrain from any identifying statements. We'll put it that way. So you remember in school, they taught us, especially as preachers, but really probably more so as Christian young men, to handle ourselves as Christian young men with the ladies of the church, right? And, preferably shake hands. If you do have people who are huggers, the half hug.
Side hug, yeah.
Side hug around the shoulder type thing. And so I always practice that. What they didn't prepare us for is the other side. So there was a member who, she was an older lady. Usually I will identify those age groups as like my grandmothers. And so she was a grandmother, and one of the sweetest ladies that I think I've ever known. And every Sunday, every Wednesday, every time you were at the building, if she was there, you were going to get a hug. And, I'm not super tall, but I'm like right at 6 feet tall, and she was pretty short. And so one morning in particular, I remember where we were standing by the pew, the whole scenario. This Sue, we'll call her, comes up to get her hug, to speak to everyone, to greet us, and she gives me a hug. And it's kind of the side hug, the half hug as I call it. But remember, she's short. And so as she reaches around, let's just say her hand was pretty low. And one of the other members saw that. And I don't think she did this on purpose. I don't think there was anything at all inappropriate. It was, she would come up, give you a half hug, and her hand was going to land pretty low. One of the other ladies saw this and
Send me next.
no. Oh no. She came up to give me a hug, and she said, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to give you high hugs. And so from then on, it was high hugs. And to this day, when we see them, when we get a hug, it's high hugs. And so that's one of the top stories that came to my mind.
That's amazing.
That's the greatest single story I've ever heard in my life. Wow. That's like the sweet sisters that want to give you a kiss on the cheek, and they don't think about it. When you're a younger preacher, it's more of a problem. You've got situations where it's like, let me just give you a kiss right here on the cheek, and you're just like, okay, that's great, and let me just hug you real quick. That's great too, but okay, stop. It's better when you know them and you know their intent, though. At least you knew her and you knew that it wasn't intentional. Goodness. It's the greatest story.
I have one other story if you still have the time.
We have the time, man.
Okay,
We
so
have 23 minutes before the next guy gets here.
we were at focal point. So, Wayne and I have always been pretty close, and I don't remember what year this was. Seems like it was pretty early on, and maybe a few years in. And Wayne had been talking to me about coming. We work with a small church, so sometimes things are difficult for us to make work like that. And it's like, look, we're gonna get you a place to stay. It doesn't cost anything. So if you can get here, we're gonna feed you. They do a great job of all of that, and so we work it out where we can go. Well, he arranges for us to stay with one of the widowed ladies of the congregation, and so we're like, oh yeah, that'll be great. We would prefer to stay with people when we travel or when we have meetings at Philadelphia, that sort of thing. First thing we do is offer them our home. That's just the way we do things. So that'll be great, yeah. So set it up, we get there, we come in late, and I can't remember now if this was the first or second night or what have you, but so we're in this one big bedroom. We have Jack, who's probably on a pallet. Annalyn was still small, so she was in her portable little playpen thing, so you can barely move around the room. Okay, so I'm paint this picture here. We get to bed, we're asleep, and I'm a pretty light sleeper. And in the middle of the night, I start hearing this noise. And I can't identify what it is at first. And I start to wake up, and I see that there's a light on in the bathroom. And I'm like, well, that's odd. And kind of get my wits about me. Amber's beside me. Jack's on the pallet. Annalyn's still in her... Who's in the bathroom?
Sorry.
The shower's running.
What?
In the bathroom. And I'm like, what is going on? So I get up, make my way over to the bathroom door, and there's a white sheet of paper, and it says, Gary's in the shower. And that's all it said.
Kind of messed up game of Clue were y'all playing?
I'm like, all right, first of all, I've met this sweet lady who's opened her home to us. No one else lives here. I don't know a Gary.
Except Gary.
And Gary's in the shower at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, as Amber wakes up and she figures out what's going on, she immediately just,
Amber.
0 to 100,
Yeah.
in just a few seconds. And so long story short, that was the last night we stayed there. And come to find out, the lady with whom we were staying, her son was a doctor at one of the local hospitals. He didn't live there, but on occasion, when he would get off late from the hospital, he would come there to shower. And so Gary's in the shower has become a saying in our family when there's something
amiss.
out of the ordinary, not quite right.
Yeah.
Gary's in the shower.
Gary's in the shower.
That was quite I think after that night we crashed with Wayne. No. Still this day I've never met Gary.
I think I'm glad that you haven't.
I think I probably am too. But we stayed with Wayne. If I remember correctly, he already had not only his family, his mom and dad, maybe Dan and Shelley. I can't remember who all was there, but we packed in. And so Yeah, that was a weird experience. Probably one of the worst that we've experienced in that. But
I have a quick story that I'll throw in there just because it's family related. And honestly, I wish I remember all the details. I don't think it really matters. But I thought it would be nice to just throw Jack in here for just a moment. I don't know if it was at a meeting or what was going on, but it's when we were in school, I guess. Or maybe during a lectureship. Maybe it was the week of camp. That's what it was. It was the week of camp, and we were there as students. And for some reason, and maybe we just offered, I don't know, y'all needed to go get on down, get camp set up or something like that. And y'all had been there at Nesbitt. And so we'll just bring Jack when we come that night. I don't remember how old Jack was exactly, but he was in a car seat. He was a youngin'.
Yeah.
And when he woke up and Mom and Daddy wasn't there, and Wayne and Cindy were there, whom he did not know, that boy screamed for 45 minutes straight.
I remember that. I remember your state when you got to, to camp.
I don't know that I had been to Sardis Lake, and you know how it is getting out there. If that's the first time you're going out there,
it's a little.
You may or may not make it.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm not sure, and it was at night, and so the directions I had, because this wasn't full GPS, smartphone times,
Yep.
And it was quite a trek.
So,
and I remember Cindy just trying to console him, and he was not having it. Just not.
I feel for people in those situations. I really, really do.
Remember when he had to wear that back brace thing?
Yes.
That was hilarious.
Oh,
That was.
I think he probably screamed more during that time than he did on that trip. That was.
I remember.
He was hard to deal with during that.
That was the
period of time.
first year you had got me to come back.
Yep.
And I knew you, but I didn't know your kids as well because I'd been gone for so long,
Right.
And I show up there, and Jack's just in this full torso brace.
Wow.
And neck, too. I mean, like, he is just sitting there, like, he can barely move. Like, he is turning his whole torso to move himself around. And I remember thinking, wow, what happened to him since I've seen him last? Like, I just assumed that he had some debilitating condition forever. Mm-hmm. And Amber was telling me, no, it's fine. He's going to be okay in a little while. You just got to wear that and let him, course correct some issues. And I remember the first time he had the brace off, I said, go put that back on. I don't like you without it.
Yeah, he had in his mind that was going to be just a little small brace that he would wear around his, I guess his waist or what have you. And so we went in to get fit for it, and they tried some different braces on that have adjustability.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when he came out. We were going to a shotgun competition that day, and he got his brace. They got it set up the way it needed to be, and he had to wear that on a 2 or 3 hour car ride, and then shoot shotgun in it, and then basically live life in it, except for sleeping and showering for what seemed like an eternity.
It was 2 years, wasn't it? Or 3?
It wasn't quite that long. It was 6 months or something.
Oh.
It was a pretty long time. But, we always said we were going to take that out and let him do some target practice or something with it. He grew to hate it very, very much.
I mean, I will say the Memphis School of Preaching missed a golden advertising opportunity with that, because if we could have just put some of our stickers on it and QR codes to scan.
There you go.
I mean, everywhere he's walking, he can't say no.
Walking
can't say don't
advertisement.
wear it. Yeah.
Jack, have y'all heard Have y'all heard the story of Jack going missing while we're on this subject?
No.
We were in Paris, and
Not Paris, France. Paris,
Tennessee.
Right? Okay.
And we'd bought a house, and it was an older house. It was probably built in the 50s, so the closets were smaller, and so I forget. We were going somewhere. I think it was a youth devotion, trying to get ready to leave, go to a youth devo, and we can't find Jack. No idea where he's at. And we looked the house all up and down, look through the closets, look under all the beds. We're checking outside with the neighbors across the street, driving through the neighborhood. You name it, we've done it, right? We can't find him. Won't answer us, wouldn't answer his mom, wouldn't answer anyone. So we start to get to that, stage where you're starting to really have a lot of intrusive thoughts and, hear the possibilities, and so anxiety, and you're starting even to panic a little bit, and finally call the police. And so they send some guys out. They go through the house once, still can't find him. Go through the house again, still can't find him. And so I began to notice that they were starting to look a little worried. And so I see that, and then I start to feel it. And so this goes on for 30, 40 minutes, what seemed like maybe an hour. And by this time, members are showing up, and they finally reach a point where I hear them talking. In the county over, they have a team of tracking dogs. They had bloodhounds. And so they make the call, and they send a chopper in with the bloodhounds to start tracking. And it takes a certain amount of time, I don't know how long it was, but we hear the helicopter come in, and it's landing. There was a helicopter pad at the Hampton Inn right across the street from where we live. The helicopter is landing, and one of our members used to do maybe, I guess it was search and rescue or something along those lines. He looked at one of the police officers. He said, look, 90-some-odd% of the time they're in the house. He said, let's go through the house again. So they do. And we hear this scream from the inside of the house. They found him. And he had tucked back in the corner of a closet. And these closets, again, were small. It was my closet. There were suits, and there were some longer clothes hanging on one side. And he was tucked in back behind that, not in the corner back here, but behind the door frame. And you couldn't see him. He was a little thing. And so they get him out. Of course, everybody has their moments. We'll get to talking to him later and say, Jack, why were you in there? Like, what were you doing? And he said, well, I was trying to open this bulletin, and I ripped it, and I didn't want to get in trouble. And I said, when have you ever gotten in trouble for ripping a piece of paper or the mail or whatever it may have been? But it was the weirdest thing. He didn't answer his mom. He didn't answer me. Like, we're all through the house. Jack, where are you? Just the police officers, even the church members that he knew. And so there for a few minutes, we contemplated the fact that our son might be gone. And in the next few minutes, he's there. So I guess there's a moral to that story.
Yeah.
But probably several. But yeah, the time that Jack went missing.
Well, do you have a story related to that? I don't want to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, because I know he'll eventually listen to this. Sorry, Jack, I brought you up.
I'm not.
But
Jack, get that brace out,
but
buddy.
he
Let's
is.
play.
but he is walking tall today. He does very well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we're all very proud of him. Love you, Jack. I hope you don't scream as you drive down the highway, man. That's all I'm saying.
Jack knows when I'll be proud of him.
What? When?
He's graduated from the Memphis School of Preaching. No, Jack's a good guy. We're glad that he's a part of the network. So I think it's good. I've got 2 more, and then I'll be done. If you got anything else you want to add, you're welcome to. But I feel like this is appropriate to talk about with you because you know this about me so well. One of the things that I still struggle with sometimes is not putting my foot in my mouth. And I was at another camp, and I'm sitting in there.
Is it bad that I can't take you seriously?
I know. I was at another camp, and it's funny, but I had, gotten there late to this camp as well because, that's just kind of how it has to be sometimes. And so I'm showing up at this camp late Sunday night. Well, Monday, when I was there, I'd gotten in so late that I didn't give my medicine to the nurse. So my prescription medication for some of the Crohn's problems that I have was in my bag. Monday night, one of the directors comes into my cabin, and I said, "Hey, the drugs are mine, but I promise I'm not giving them out to anybody." And I just thought that would be funny because I figured he had heard, like, "Hey, you got these medications." Because I'd mentioned I just didn't know who to give them to. And he said, "Hey, can I see you real quick?" And pointed to Justin Pascal, who we know, and calls Justin outside, talks to Justin for like 5 minutes, comes back in. Justin says, "Hey, come here," to me. I'm like, "Oh, no. That joke must not have been as funny as I thought it was." Justin said, "Hey, one of our kids did not turn in some medication to the nursing staff.
Oh, no.
And they're about to have to come and take it. And it's like it's a level 2 narcotic or something. Like it's got to be taken." They said, "We don't think he did it on purpose or intentionally, but it's a pretty serious drug that needs to make sure it gets to the nurse." And here I'm over here going, "I'm not giving them out to anybody but the campers, I promise," And I thought, of course. Well, the next morning, I'm telling this story to some people that I had done that. And I said, "Yeah, I put my foot in my mouth a lot like Peter." And one of the women, who's an alumnus's wife, said, "Like Peter Chin?" I said, "No, the Apostle Peter." I said, "Peter Chin?" I was like, "What?" I said, "Could you imagine?"
Oh,
Peter
man.
Chin's just living his life over in Singapore, Four Seas Bible College. People say that they put their foot in their mouth like you do a lot. And why was it that her first thought was Peter Chin?
Yeah. No idea.
I mean, I thought it was a pretty common phrase that the Apostle Peter put his foot in his mouth a lot. Evidently not to her.
Well, I mean.
And also, she thinks very low of Peter Chin, apparently.
Never know a person's experience, right?
But I think that I figured you would appreciate that because, sometimes my greatest flaw is, other than my stunning good looks, my greatest flaw, other than my massive intelligence and humility.
Yes, don't forget that one.
And responsibility. I'm supposed to be at a session right now.
Uh-oh.
Whoops. Other than all of those
skills.
things, yes, I put a list somewhere. Other than all of that, my greatest flaw is that I care too much. My greatest flaw is certainly that I don't know when to just let it be. And there are so many of these "did that really happen" stories that have come from me saying, "and then."
And then, yes.
But I do love Sardis Lake because I get a chance to sit down with you and Timbo and just absolutely be ballistic and watch as both of you are like, "Who hurt you? What is wrong with you?" And so I always look forward to Sardis Lake every year for that reason. Also, he's not on the podcast with us today, but Daniel Manning at Sardis Lake always gives you the best parenting advice ever.
I've been doing it wrong for a long time.
Yeah.
I really have. And Daniel has really opened my eyes to what parenting should look like.
Before he even had kids, really, too.
Yes.
And
that's the amazing part, is he gives this great, just sage advice, and a lot of it was, like you said, before children even. So I don't know how he does it, but it was like it was the highlight of my year, really. And then he had to go and have a child, and
I know,
mess everything
father.
up. Yeah, like I'm still struggling here to get Jack and Anna Lynn on the right path, and
my favorite one that he ever said was, because he always does this at breakfast with Chris, sits down at breakfast, and he said, so Chris, one of the things that you definitely want to do with your children is just never praise them and always belittle them and berate them. Yeah. And he said, that will let them know who's boss. And I'm sitting over there going, wow. So I started giving marital advice, too.
Oh, really?
You don't remember this?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I must not have taken notes.
Well, it wasn't to you or Amber.
Oh.
It was to other people.
Well,
jury's out on how it worked, but we'll see.
Listen, I mean, I'm constantly trying to grow and to mature and to improve, and so this is going to bite me eventually. But I mean, I'm always open to advice. And,
thank you.
And so on. So, 2 years under Daniel, and I mean,
hey,
I feel like I've got some things figured out. So, maybe you could help my marriage as well.
Well, I'd like to read a passage before we go. This is from the Word of God in a translation that I advise you to never use. This is the Cotton Patch Bible.
Oh, no.
The reason I left you in Arkansas was that you might tie up the loose ends there and organize some key men in each city. Just as I instructed you, such a man should be above reproach, faithful to his wife, have loyal children who don't have a reputation for delinquency and running wild. For as a manager of God's house, it is absolutely essential that the supervisor himself be above reproach, not stuck on himself or short-tempered or a wino or a bully or a money lover. Oh. Instead, he should be friendly to strangers, on the side of the good, sensible, decent, devoted, and disciplined. He must have a good grasp of the Christian faith so as to be able to both instruct others with sound teachings and to give the right answers to those on the other side of the fence. And believe you me, there are plenty of the latter, especially among the religious people. They are unbridled, smooth-talking windbags whose mouths must be stopped. They are converting whole households by holding revivals, air quotes, just to collect the, air quotes, love offerings. One of them, in fact, one of their own evangelists has said, some Arkansans, what is that? Are born liars, low-down brutes, and lazy gluttons. This statement is correct, and because it is, let them have it straight from the shoulder. So they should be spiritually healthy and not hold on to religious myths and to the traditions of a society that hides its face from the truth. Take that, Arkansas. That is an actual quote-unquote translation of Titus, what was that, chapter 1, the entire chapter?
Yeah.
So, as they say sometimes, the word of the Lord. I mean, they have just... Hold on, someone walked by that we're beefing. Keep moving. Step off. Leave.
One of the new parts of this particular podcast that we've tried to implement has been the really the Jerry Springer approach. We have someone waiting to come around the corner, and
this is perfect time.
She wants a hug. And I believe you called her Sue. And
She's here right
she is
now.
here right now.
Yes.
Come on out, Sue.
I've not seen her in a while. Or giving her a hug, for that matter.
I'm glad to hear the latter. Listen, the good news is, number one, none of us are genuinely going to use the cotton patch. Let's get that out of the way.
Yes.
Number two, it's good to laugh. There needs to be times where we laugh and have conversations about some of the funnier things that happen in ministry. Solomon said there's a time to laugh in Ecclesiastes 3. It's good. It's enjoyable. I've enjoyed having you be on the podcast, Chris. And there's one final story I'll tell. You ready?
No, I'm never ready.
I was driving home late. Adam and I were heading halfway back somewhere from a gospel meeting or whatever, and I was coming up to a light to stop, and I thought I had the ability to gun it through the yellow light. Well, it turned red very quickly, so I slammed on my brakes and just kind of stopped because I was like, oh, I'm not going to risk it. And I look over to my right at the car that's in the other side of the intersection, and it's a cop. And I thought, okay, I'm getting pulled over. He starts driving, and as soon as he gets where the lights from my Tahoe are shining on him, he turns his head at me and just smiles as he's driving by like, you almost got it, boy. You were this close.
That's right.
And to this day, I wish I could find that man and thank him, because financially, I don't think that I could have afforded that ticket, because I'm not good with money, Chris. I'm actually pretty bad with it at times. Have you heard of Enron, by the way? Heard some really great things about them. I've invested all of my life savings, all 3 nickels.
Enron, huh?
Thanks for being on
I think
the
there's a
podcast
podcast
today, buddy.
about that.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
I love you. Say it back.
I love you too.
Okay. I'm glad that you took some time to be with us. Next week, we have the opportunity to continue this Through Their Eyes and Did That Really Happen journey with Brother Jeff Archie. Until then, Wayne had to be here. Chris, thanks for coming. Wayne, you can kick rocks. I will see you guys next time. Bye, Chris. I love you.
I love you too. Thanks for having me.
See, guys, I am loved.